Happy 12th birthday to us. Yes, it is ET Now's 12th birthday, and on today's edition of the StartUpCentral, we get to one of the biggest voices from the startup universe. He's taught us you can never dream too big, however small and humble the beginning might be. Our guest is Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who has been on ET Now for the last 12 years. Mr. Bikhchandani, thank you so much for joining us on our 12th birthday. Before I talk to you about anything else, do you remember maybe your first interview or your first interaction with all of us at ET Now?
You know, I've actually forgotten. There have been so many. I've forgotten the first one, but I've been on your channel several times, on your show several times. So thank you for inviting me once again, and happy birthday.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Bikhchandani. I'm going to make it very clear to our viewers that we've got you here to talk about the ecosystem at large. Info Edge India will be declaring its results next week, so it's in silent period. But think of it as a masterclass of sorts with Mr. Bikhchandani. If I could ask you, Mr. Bikhchandani, that if we've done 12 years together with you here at ET Now. If I want to fast forward and ask you to look into a crystal ball of sorts and imagine 12 years from now, and you understand the markets so well, the way things are going and this, that and the other, do you think the Nifty 50 with the 50 stocks will be dominated by the new age companies 12 years from now? Is that the future?
I certainly hope so. But let me tell you something. If you'd asked me 12 years ago, in 2009, what is life going to be like 12 years from now? There is no way I would have predicted this. Okay, so this has been exceeded our expectations. I think we had not yet invested in Zomato. We were going to invest in Zomato in 2010. We had just invested in Policybazaar. We were 3 years after our listing, right? And we were about to go into the global financial crisis. I think Lehman collapsed in 2009 or was it 2008? But we were, the economy was in serious distress, I'd say. That year. So I had not anticipated that we would see this kind of boom in the stock market, this kind of boom in startups, this kind of boom in valuations, this kind of boom in investments in startups, and so much entrepreneurship all around. I would not have predicted this. So any prediction I make now for the next 12 years, will it be 100 times better? Will there be a market crash? We don't know. But look, market corrections come and go. Entrepreneurs go on forever.
Okay, so it's also the entrepreneurial spirit of India that we want to celebrate today, the resilience that they have shown, like you said, for the last 12 years, from so many decades, and they continue to do so. In fact, I was doing my research and I noticed that in 2009, when ET Now started, Hitesh, who's now your close aide, had not even been promoted to the post that he's at. You ran the ship as it is. Do you think today the entrepreneurs are also understanding the need to have professionals?
So first of all, so I'm a professional too. It's just that I'm a founder. Hitesh is a professional too, but he is the managing director, co-promoter. So we are both professionals. So Hitesh is not an employee who joined and then took up a managerial job. Hitesh is an entrepreneur. But I think what we are seeing now is that the current crop of entrepreneurs are also professionals. And that's important. And I think enough of them recognize the need to get on more professionals on board, even if they're not founders, in senior positions of responsibility. So if you look at our own company, Info Edge, there are so many people who were not there at the beginning, but they have been there now for a while. And they are professional managers who act as if they're owners. I think when I look at the Zomato management team, I look at the Policybazaar management team, I think it's a very, very good broad-based management team with many, many competent professionals and great bench strength. So I think increasingly as companies grow, entrepreneurs realize that they can't do it on their own. They need people with them. And the smart ones do it well. And I'm happy to say that I've met enough smart entrepreneurs who are doing it very, very well.
If I were to continue to look into the crystal ball, Mr. Bikhchandani, let me ask you about one topic which is trending so much. Do you think 12 years from now, we'll all be transacting in cryptos?
So, I'm a little bit of a dinosaur there. I don't understand crypto so well. I studied economics in college, and when I try to recall the paper I did in Delhi University in St. Stephen's College on money, banking, and financial institutions was called, a sovereign guarantee of a currency was an integral part of a currency having long-term confidence among people. And crypto, there is no sovereign guarantee. There is, behind crypto, there is no single nation or central bank. And I find that kind of hard to believe or imagine that a cryptocurrency will therefore enjoy the confidence that it seemingly does right now. But who knows? I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong.
So therefore, it would be too hard to also imagine a world where we won't be buying real paintings and would be buying all our art as NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
Well, look, stranger things have happened, so I won't rule it out, but I am not entirely comfortable with the crypto concept. But I think I'm on the wrong side of 50, so maybe that's why.
Fair point. So let's get... Oh, age is just a number. But Mr. Bikhchandani, let's continue to do a little bit of this talk of what it's likely to be in 12 years. One of the big problems that we also talk about is, will India, first we build for India and we build for the world. Do you think 12 years from now, India will have an answer to, let's say, an Amazon or a Tesla?
So those two specific companies may not be so likely because Amazon is the Amazon of India, right? So it's dominating in India as well on e-commerce, right? But look, there are a lot of companies working on uniquely Indian problems and coming out with uniquely Indian solutions. When I look at, fintech, you look at financial inclusion, I think India is way ahead of the West in many, many ways. You look at, several other areas, several other problems. You look at making for Bharat, making for rural India, making for small town India. I think there are a number of entrepreneurs doing it. We've invested in a few. So I think there will be enough large, valuable companies that are solving big problems at scale. And they will be uniquely Indian.
But do you think that, if not a Tesla and Amazon, I was just using that as an example, but do you think India from 12 years from now, the way innovation is going, the kind of entrepreneurial spirit we're seeing, the kind of money also that we're seeing, and all of that, can we have an equivalent of an Indian FANG?
So look, fundamentally, these large companies become large because of the size of the economy they serve or they grow in. So American companies are really large. The Chinese economy is large, so Chinese companies are really large. European companies in the digital tech world are not so large. There aren't so many of them. So if the Indian economy grows and grows fast, you will find very many large, valuable companies coming out of India, right? So to some extent, I would say we are indexed to the size of the Indian economy. And it's important to understand that. We can't get away from that. We are tied to the hip. We are joined at the hip with the Indian economy.
So the Indian economy, 12 years from now, the way we are headed and, post-COVID, the noise that is being made around being Atmanirbhar, this is India's decade?
We have to get a few things right. I think, COVID has set us back. We have to recover from it well and nicely. We have to vaccinate everybody. We have to then repeat the vaccines every year. Should they be required to be repeated, which right now it looks like they will be. And then 2 jabs of that, and every year. And plus there may be new variants. So this is something which is of some concern. But I think with some amount of good execution and planning, we should be able to overcome that. Having said that, beyond that, can you grow at 7, 8, 9% a year, every year on the average for the next 10 years? If you do, I think you will have some really large companies. I mean, see, it's one thing to have valuable companies. It's another to have companies that are, large in revenue and growing and large in profit. So if you're being valued eventually of a price earnings multiple, right, then you need to have the earnings. And I think enough companies now will have to graduate to actually making profit and making substantial profit and grow and having that profit grow.
So since you've brought up the word profit, for the next 12 years, and I'm only using 12 because it's our 12th birthday and I'm building on that theme, is that what the entrepreneurs need to start focusing on? Unit economics,
I think they are doing it
because
everybody recognizes it. I think they're already doing it because they all recognize that, look, if you're going public, within 2 to 3 years, you are expected to make a profit, even if you're not making a profit today. Because markets will not tolerate losses for a long time. Public markets, that is. And therefore, I think all conversations that I'm having with people tell me that people are on the verge of profit, people are going to get to profit pretty soon after going public or before they go public. So that will happen. I think there'll be enough companies that will be profitable in the next couple of years.
And hopefully a lot of them will be listed as well, like we talked about. But Mr. Bikhchandani, if there was one innovation of the last decade which has become so indispensable, more than a decade, it has been the smartphone. Going forward, do you think future innovation, future companies will also continue to be built around the smartphone, or do you think that can possibly be disrupted?
So the thing about disruption is that it's never obvious except in hindsight, right? Hey, this was a disruption. We've been disrupted, right? Now, and that's a problem with the disruption. The guy who's doing it also often does not know that this will create this kind of impact, right? He thinks he's got a nifty idea. He does it, it goes viral, gets adopted, and suddenly it's a disruption. But there are very few people who say, I'm going to disrupt, this is how I disrupt, and then actually go on to disrupt in that fashion. It doesn't happen. So to predict a disruption is slightly harder, at least I'm not capable of it. But can the smartphone be disrupted? I'm sure it can be disrupted, but how it will be disrupted and who will disrupt it, I do not know.
And just the way, I think what Indians need to be really proud of, and it is being spoken about, is our explosion when it comes to fintech. Our virtual highways are, far more advanced than physical highways may be, and our virtual highways are one of the most advanced that you have in the world. Do you think that 12 years from now, fintech companies from India can be the dominant players in the world?
So look, I think there will certainly be the dominant players in India. Now, being a dominant player in the world is a slightly harder thing. Building brands overseas, especially in the West, is an expensive proposition. There will be local regulations, especially in the area of fintech, which you've got to comply with. There will be non-tariff barriers to entry. There will be a whole lot of things which may or may not work for Indian companies to be dominant players globally. We have to wait and see. But they will certainly be the dominant players in India, and they will certainly make a difference to the lives of 1 billion Indians.
So where do you think the big themes lie for the next 10, 12 years when we talk about the startup ecosystem?
So I think fintech is obvious. It's already happening. Financial inclusion, Bharat, what goes on in rural India, what happens there. I think that will be a digital inclusion will happen there, right? I think you will go, a lot of it will be beyond text, because you have to break the literacy barrier, right? So there are 3 or 4 things that I expect to happen in the next 3 or 4 years. I think you will have to see solutions at price points that are affordable by 1 billion Indians. And that will also happen. Competition will ensure that.
So as the world gets flatter and also smaller, one theme that we've already started seeing when you speak to the deans of the IIMs and the IITs, the children today the graduates today, they don't want to, go for the cushy job so much. They're willing to get out of the comfort zone. They're willing to, rough it out initially with these dreams of striking it big, of being unicorns and decacons and all of that. Do you think that is going to continue? And is that the way the youngsters should continue?
I certainly hope so. I think the more role models that emerge of success stories of people who took the road less traveled and then made it happen. So look, why is a Deepinder Goyal story or a Zomato story or a Bikhchandani and Policybazaar story so inspirational? Because they are both middle-class kids who went to IIT, who were good students, who studied hard, got into IIT. Yashish's father was in the army. Deepinder's father was a government school teacher. And from that background, they came and did this. Now, why does that inspire? Because it tells a few 100 million youngsters, the regular guys, if they could do it, we can do it. They didn't have any money which they inherited. They had no business background in the family, and they still did it. And that is why these stories are inspirational. And that is what motivates a few 100,000 people to try every year, to be an entrepreneur, to try and make it big, to try and strike gold, to try and make a difference, make an impact. And these inspirational success stories, I think, are really, really important.
Well, yours is also very inspirational, Mr. Bikhchandani. You borrowed money,
well, I was a generation ago.
borrowed
I was a generation ago.
money
See,
for computers
for
and
the youngsters
servers
today,
and set it all up.
Well, I was a generation ago. I think people will, Dipinda is 38, Yashish is 45, right? They started around 2008, 2000. They both started in 2008 actually, right? Both the companies. And therefore it's a much more recent thing. People can relate to it better.
And isn't that also a sub-story that we should talk about? Yashish and Dipinder took a bet, a big bet, in the midst of the great financial crisis, right? So as India emerges from the COVID crisis, massive opportunity for today's entrepreneurs. They'll have to show resilience, they'll have to be smart, they'll have to be lean, but a massive opportunity in that?
So I'll tell you. When I quit my job and became an entrepreneur in 1990, there was a recession going on, right? When we launched Naukri in 97, 1996 was a recession year, or a slowdown. I would call it a recession, a slowdown. 1990 also a slowdown, right? And the point is, when you're starting out, it doesn't matter if there's a slowdown or not, because you're starting from zero. So anything more than zero is great. And therefore you can grow. So yes, great companies are born in recessions. Great companies are also born in good times. So great companies are born all the time. And a recession does not hamper the founding of a great company. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you got it in you to start something, then you will start something. You will not wait to see is it a recession. So no entrepreneur, no startup entrepreneur does macro analysis. Hey, it's a recession right now, I should not start. No, he's got an idea, he wants to start, he wants to do it now. He does it now. And that's how it works.
Today, you know what we're seeing, because of the massive gush in liquidity and all of that, there's a lot of money which is out there. A lot of news items, and all of us also keep reporting on X-rays, so many millions of dollars, why has become a unicorn, this, that and the other. What would your advice to entrepreneurs today be? Because there'll be many who are not able to get that kind of access to funds, and they must be feeling bad that why is everybody else getting it and I'm not getting it.
So what I like to tell young entrepreneurs, even now, in this day and age of excessive liquidity, I say a couple of things. Number one, the customer's money is better than the investor's money. The reason being that if you are getting the customer's money, then you have a viable product. The customer is paying you because he wants to buy your thing. If you get the investor's money, it does not mean you have a viable product. It means that you're impressed two people across the table with your PowerPoint, right? And the customer's money, if you're getting it, the investor's money will almost certainly follow. Because investors love to invest behind companies who are getting the customer's money. But if you get the investor's money, it does not necessarily mean the customer's money will follow. The customer doesn't care whose money you got. He cares if what you're selling makes sense for him to buy or her to buy. Right? And therefore, I always say, build your company on customers' money more than investors' money. Sure, investors' money is great for growth. It's great for certain investments. But it is no substitute for customers' money. And I'll say stay with that. Focus on your customer. Investors' money will come if you're getting customers.
So stay bootstrapped, grow with your customers' money, and don't get affected by other people raising all of that kind of cash.
I would say, look, don't be afraid of bootstrapping. Be prepared to bootstrap. Along the way, if investors' money comes and you need it, great. But focus. Even if the investor's money comes, you don't lose your focus.
So at what stage should... But at what stage should a startup or a founder start saying, okay, now I can start and I should look at investor money? I know there'll be no strict formula, but if you had to give advice, at what juncture?
So the best time to raise money is when investors come to you rather than you go to investors. Because when investors come to you is when you can raise money on your terms. It means they want you. Mm-hmm. But why will investors come to you is because they are seeing some traction in your business. They are seeing that, listen, this company, this brand, this startup is making impact, it's getting customers. I've heard of it, I've used it, I like it. That's how we invested in Zomato. Hitesh and I were both using the site and we loved it. So we reached out to them.
How important, or what is the most important thing while pitching?
I think clarity, conciseness. What is your sharp and focused value prop for the customer? Can you describe your business in one sentence? What does your business do? What are you trying to do?
So it doesn't have to be about. Is that what you ask those who pitch to you? That tell me your business in one sentence?
We don't
one sentence pretty much help you decide?
No. So that's not the single. That's not. We don't ask that question. But if somebody can explain clearly in one sentence what the business does and is and what they're trying to do, it tells us that they are clear, they are focused. Right? They're not all over the place. And that's a very good start in a pitch.
Before I let you go, Mr. Bikhchandani, I want to ask you one question. That because of the excessive liquidity that we are in, you're seeing, almost every other week a new unicorn that is being announced. You're seeing big checks that are being given, and you've been in business for so long now. Is all of this sustainable?
Look, a lot of this is a result of $4 trillion of money being printed by the Fed. There's excessive liquidity globally. Some of it is finding its way to India. Now, if you look at what the share price of Info Edge was a year back, it's probably 2.5x of that now. I don't know exactly what it was, but it is substantially higher than it was a year back, right? It's the same for private markets. So had this $4 trillion not been printed, it's quite possible that many of these unicorns would not have been at this valuation. So my advice to entrepreneurs is don't focus on the fact that you're a unicorn or not. Focus on your customer, get your revenue, get your profit. Because that is sustainable. Valuation will come, valuation will go.
That's valuable advice for all of you tuning in from one of the biggest stalwarts that you have in the ecosystem, someone who understands the markets also so well, Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who did this interview with us on our 12th birthday. Really appreciate you taking the time out. Many thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for calling me and happy birthday once again.